Yes, please. Thank you very much, and thank you, Vincent, for the great presentation. It's good that you left off to smart and autonomous ships, because in 2011 I started this research on future ship operations, and grew that into a Rolls-Royce ship intelligence business where I was the senior vice president and profit and loss owner. My background included some of these highlights, that we were doing a project with Maersk and Switzer that demonstrated the world's first remotely controlled commercial vessel. Then with Stena and MOL, we did a cooperation around intelligent awareness system. And also there was a project called Safer Vessel with autonomous navigation. This was a project with Finferries that was the world's first autonomous commercial ship demonstration. Then I realized that these modern and autonomous ships can't interact with the rest of the logistic chain unless all these digital handshakes are being developed that Vincent was talking about, and linked to an open platform. And so Awake.ai was born. Awake.ai is a growth engine for smart ports and shipping. Our mission is to lead the transition to sustainable and intelligent maritime logistics, which we believe cumulatively 10% of the global CO2 emissions from shipping will be reduced by 2030 with the help of ecosystem partners. So we can't do this alone, and nobody can. Awake.ai was established in October 2018, so a few years ago, to create a software platform for smart port and shipping. And Awake.ai is already known to tackle these big problems in the maritime business, and we understand the maritime logistics, smart and even autonomous shipping. In June this year, we have redefined maritime logistics by launching a real-time situational awareness and optimization solution for the maritime actors. So that's briefly what I wanted to introduce me and the company. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to say a quick thank you to the conference organizers, and also to Professor Lee and the panelists as well. I'm Mike Kim with Orbital Insight. We are a Palo Alto-based AI geospatial analytics company. We have a platform to analyze primarily mobile location data, as well as satellite imagery and AIS shipping data. We're funded by Sequoia and Google Ventures. I'd like to take us a little bit higher in altitude, and that's the purpose that we serve within the value chain. So if you go a little bit higher into the satellites, communication satellites, optical imagery satellites, there are some interesting things you can do. You can, for example, here is featuring our work with Unilever, the largest food company in the world. Bloomberg wrote an article on it, and Unilever is using our platform and technology to map out the supply chain from country to country. And you can do that with mobile location data, so to connect the dots. Similarly, you could do that with port flows and begin to map out those port flows using our mobile location data, similar to what Unilever is doing for their supply chain. Here is an example looking at AIS shipping data and looking at the flows of Chinese oil throughout the world. And one analyst had a thesis saying, well, with the increasing US-China trade wars, how will the change of oil flows, how will that change? And as you might guess, we started seeing shifting of activity from China and US and over more to the Middle East. So you begin to get a sense, there's a role of macro data. We've been talking about sensors, which is critical and at the ground level, but also the role of the macro and higher altitude type of analysis. And finally here, from satellite imagery, we have an AI computer vision ship detection algorithm. For example, we'll run this at ports like Gadani, Pakistan, where there's the shipbreaking yard and accusations of illegal shipbreaking, and we can run our ship detection within our Go platform, and you can begin to see down at the bottom a time series of how that ship detection has changed over time. So looking forward through the panel to discuss more and talking through some of the use cases more with you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Netherlands session of AI World Congress. My name is Kwangil Lee, as introduced, and I'm from KMOU and the moderator of this session. This session is a Netherlands session, and the topic will be focused on the smart port and shipping issues. For the discussion, it is my great honor to have three panelists as introduced, Vincent Campfens, and Karno Tenovuo, and Mike Kim. I would like to ask some questions regarding innovation perspective to Vincent, and new business model perspective to Karno, and business analytic perspective to Mike Kim. Since we have a very valuable panelist, I expect active participation from the online audience. Let's start with general issues on the digitalization for innovation. Start with Vincent. Could you introduce a lot of digitalization works at Port of Rotterdam? Why the digitalization is so important in the port, and then what was the major challenge, major changes you achieved with the digitalization in Rotterdam port?
Thank you, Professor Lee, to start off the conversation like this. And let me first emphasize that digitization is not really the goal for the Port Authority. It's just a means to get further, because it is important to enable us to do more with less. It is very hard for us as a port to grow in a geographical space. And so we have to grow from inside out, and computers help us to make better decisions in this more complex world. And our port was one of the first to embrace digitization with this autonomous container terminal. And our port continues to challenge our port users to innovate on efficiency and sustainability. And to become more efficient and sustainable, they need digital technologies. There's also another side of the coin by being one of the first to really embrace digitization, is that we have a lot of legacy systems that a lot of other ports don't have. So when you step in this digitization journey at the moment, sometimes you can be ahead of others because you can immediately use all the new technologies, while we still have to use our older digital technologies. So yeah, there's positive things and a bit more slowing things on being ahead with digitization.
Okay. Well, I just want to know what is most important factor for your digitization, and what was the major challenges to achieve the digitization?
Well, one of the major challenges is always how do you get the right data in a secure, reliable, and standardized way at the right place, at the right moment. And as I said in my presentation, we think the digital twin will help us with that. And the challenges are also in how you enable all the people to work with this new technology. Are they aware of what is possible? So it's not only the technology, but also the cultural change inside our company and inside the whole port community that needs a lot of attention. And for me personally, because I always like new technology, I'm interested in it, but it's a challenge to get this story over to people that do not know that. So that's also a personal challenge for me.
Yes, I agree. This is not only the technology issues. So now I turn to Karno. Awake provides a solution for maritime logistics. you also provide a lot of solutions for smart shipping and autonomous ship solution. But this time I'm going to just focus on the maritime logistics. Could you tell me about the characteristic of maritime logistics more easily, and what is the major difference from the land-based logistics?
Yeah, let's see if I can tell that easily. But well, of course, on the high level, transportation of goods by sea can be considered low cost transportation, and it practically has no capacity limitations. And of course, in the worldwide scene, it remains the backbone of this global trade and manufacturing supply chains, as I believe as more than 4/5 of the world's merchandise trade volume is carried by sea, and most end-to-end shipments include at least one sea leg. So in this respect, maritime transportation is an integral part of the logistic chain rather than a competing mode to for example, land transport. That's my view on that. But in broad terms, this includes the actual sea voyage and then the port calls. Of course, if you talk about differences, one major difference is the fragmentation of the logistic chain. So we witnessed more than 20 or even 30 different organizations that can be involved in this export and import trade cargo. And this translates into higher number of risk of delays, margins on margins, and ultimately higher cost and higher emissions than needed. So the land-based logistics is also fragmented, but not so much. And digitalization in the land side is further, I believe, than in the seaside.
Okay, in other ways, what is a major change we can expect with your system? If possible, could you explain it with an example to understand easily?
So with our system, most actors today see only 1 or 2 days forward what's going to happen in the port or in the logistic chain. They see what is going to be the status or how the services or resources should be organized to optimize the turnaround times. And as an AI company, we give them that visibility many days or even weeks forward with unprecedented accuracy. So a concrete example would be estimating when different processes start or stop, where we have benchmarked up to 80% more accurate than other sources, and we can predict much earlier what is going to be possible to a certain date. So that's our major change.
Okay. Then what is the most important factors to realize the digital maritime logistics, and what kinds of challenges do you have to implement these kinds of services?
So I think Vincent talked about that well as well. What are the challenges? So digitalization of maritime logistics is happening on the infrastructure side, as Vincent was talking about, port systems, ship systems, and then logistic systems in general. The infrastructure here is related to, for example, sensoring fairways and port areas. On the port side, our Awake platform combines the sea data on sea and weather conditions, vessel port situational information, port infrastructure availability, cargo flows, and provides this relevant data and analytics for various actors that can be port authorities, ship operators, terminal operators, and cargo owners, for example, so that they can improve their operations. And we're offering this smart port capability as a service, so that not every actor needs to make the same CapEx investment into this fast changing technology, but to get it from us as a service and save cost and emissions. It's not feasible that everybody innovates this the same thing all over again.
Yeah, it seems to be very challenging issues. Okay, now I turn to business analytic perspective. I would like to ask to Mike, what kinds of data does your company utilize, and then what kinds of information does your company to provide your customer?
Sure. Our data sets are satellite imagery, mobile location data, AIS shipping data would be the top three that we use. And we bring that into our platform, which we call Go, and let customers, log in, and they can create an area that they want to analyze. And in the best case scenarios, they get results back within 15 minutes. So they could ask a question of the day or of the week through the platform, saying, I want to look at this certain activity, this certain area, and I want to understand this better. As far as specific examples of that, I mentioned, revisiting the AIS shipping data in my opening slides, looking at connectivity of, for example, oil throughout the world becomes valuable insights, macro level insights for certain analysts and users. Also another service we provide for our customers is using AIS mining data out of certain ports, for example, in Australia. So understanding, we know which mines belong to which companies, which raw materials, and setting up just automated daily updates on what predicting. So prediction becomes important. What is the prediction of mining tonnage shipped or produced for a certain company or raw material? As far as we know, this type of insight, the data hasn't been integrated to look at it in that sort of creative way. I showed another example of ship detection in Gadani, Pakistan. So if you combine the optical computer vision ship detection with AIS ship data, and you look at where did we detect a ship and where did someone turn off their beacon, that begins to be interesting data for certain governments, as you might imagine. So for the US government, we've provided port data analytics at a macro scale. Again, one final comment is we do something called real estate property analytics. And this becomes really interesting when you apply it at a port level. So the problem set is primarily shopping centers. I want to know who the visitors are. Using mobile location data, we could tell where are the customers coming from, what is the home to work distance, where is the residential centers, where are the industrial centers, and even if you wanted to understand what country are people coming in from, you begin to understand a little bit more about that quote unquote property in that sense. And if you apply that same property real estate capability to ports, you get some interesting insights.
Okay. Can you share about your work in Korea, and then what is a maritime strategy for Asia?
Sure. In Korea, well, we entered Asia, Orbital Insight, we entered the Asia Pacific through Japan. So I'm based in Tokyo. I set up our Japan business. So we have investors, 4 investors in Japan, 4 partners, resellers, and a number of customers ranging in certain industries, both government and commercial. After Japan, our strategy is to jump next door to Korea. And we see a lot of similarities in the type of work we can do in Japan, in Korea. So now we've been, and we do work with the Korean government. So the Korean government is already a customer of ours, and now we've been building relationships elsewhere commercially. My goal is to set up our first Korean partner. So we've been talking to the major conglomerates and their technology arms of the conglomerates in Korea, the different chaebols. And so that's one of our strategies specifically in Korea. From a maritime strategy within the Asia Pacific region, really to provide some of the port analytics I mentioned earlier. Again, we're not trying to solve everything. We can't. There's a certain role for a higher altitude level data and something that's more cost effective, something that can be updated daily, and provide data at scale. And that's the role we're trying to provide for ports within that value chain. I think in the region, South China Sea is a very important topic. So providing the same type of analysis for South China Sea, a lot of people, a lot of countries, governments interested in that.
Okay, so I'm turn to the more AI topics and technology issues. To Vincent, I just want to ask, recently the autonomous and smart shipping becomes an important issue. What kinds of activity are you supporting for these issues?
Thank you. Well, I was first thinking about how Mike can also help the Port of Rotterdam with all those cool propositions, but more on that later. About the autonomous and smart ships. Yeah, well, we want to provide the best facilities for these ships in the future. We, of course, want those ships to visit the Port of Rotterdam. And I believe the bigger smart ships and autonomous vessels, they will need data from the port authority to sail safely in the port. But the data about the weather and water conditions in the port and about the rules and regulations in the port is something that only we can really have and we can give to those ships. And we can give the data from our infrastructure to those ships so that they can plan their journey and they can adapt to our conditions. But we as a port, of course, we do not build or operate ships. So in order to prepare for this evolution, to prepare for these ships, we are very active in international committees like the IMO, IALA, IAPH, and the IHO. Next to that, we also partner with parties like, for example, Awake.ai, and so I know Karno. And more recently, we also partnered with Daewoo Shipping and Marine Engineering. And we do that to exchange our thoughts in depth and learn from each other's perspective on this idea of autonomous and smart ships. And that is something that you do not get in the international committees. That is something that you really have to do in one-on-one relationships with interesting partners. So these direct partnerships, well, they allow us to explore and test small use cases that no one can do by themselves. We cannot do it by ourselves. Other parties cannot do it by themselves, either ship operators or shipbuilders. So that's where we have to have this ecosystem to have those smart ships come to our port and actually make value out of that. It's not something we can do by ourselves. So that's important to know.
Yeah, Korea is also developing the autonomous ship projects at this moment. So I'd like to expect the close collaboration with Port of Rotterdam.
I'm looking very closely at Korea.
Yes. I think so. Also, many people, AI technology and digitization technology, many people concerned about the safety and security issues. So I'd like to ask, how you provide the safety and cybersecurity and privacy issues in the port.
Well, we value digital security as high as our physical safety nowadays. Our chief harbor master is also the port cyber resilience officer. Within the port community, we have invested a lot of time with all the businesses in the port area to make them aware of cybersecurity and to increase the maturity of their awareness. So that is something that's very important for us because cybersecurity hits us all, not just the big companies or the small companies. As I said, there's lots of connected systems and the impact of incidents can be very large. Besides that, inside our own company as the port authority, we value cybersecurity as one of the highest requirements for new IT systems and IT projects. So before we start with defining all these nice functionalities that we want, we also look at how can we secure our data? How can we make sure that when we give data to other parties, it is also secure? And we also choose our partners and choose our systems based on how secure it is. So yes, I believe it is one of the top priorities, and it is something that when you start doing a project or when you start thinking about new applications, it takes up a lot of time, and people usually don't want to think about it because it's not very fun sometimes. But afterwards, it gives us the ease of mind that we do not have to think, or we have to think less about cyber threats. And last but not least is that we now, as a port community and through our port cyber resilience officer, we also have a control room at the Port Authority with a direct line to our national cybersecurity room. So to inform each other on what's happening. So that's how important this is for us.
Okay, so now I turn to Karno. So I just want to know what's the roles of AI for your service and or in your system, and then what kinds of activities are you working on for recent technology issues such as autonomous ship and smart shipping kind of works.
So, yeah, you had many questions. Let me know if I forget something. So the first question was the role of AI in our service, and the first part is really to help with the fragmentation of actors and the data. So there are many actors involved, and sometimes when something's changed, it becomes very complex for humans to analyze and optimize all the effects. For example, when changes are happening. This is important to predict different operational scenarios, at least not in real time without AI. So AI can support in creating better predictions when services are needed, what services are needed, and even some cases we can have the system to do all its defined tasks autonomously without human operator interaction. This means then that the AI system chooses the actions, performs the actions with no expectations from human intervention. And this is really the highest level of autonomy and the highest role a system can take. Today, if you compare it, the AI system is more advisory system where it recommends alternatives, and in some cases it executes them within certain boundaries. So that's kind of the general thing. And of course, at Awake, we are applying AI, especially machine learning methods in our platform, and we're using a variety of machine learning models in our software development, for example, data cleaning, filtering, structuring, pre-processing, and automated data labeling. We have developed machine learning models for these predictions of different process start and stop times, resource tracking using computer vision, same that Vincent was talking about, but tracking many assets in the ports. And then we have done business analytics at large scale data sets. So all kind of variety of things have been used. And of course now when you talk about autonomous ships and smart ships, our background has been in developing these solutions, and as Vincent was saying, we're working with Port of Rotterdam to enable these smart ships to make port calls in the future. And we're also part of this 1C ecosystem that is targeting to bring autonomous solutions to operation by 2025. So not many years from now. So many things happening.
Okay. Now I just want to know about the business analyst perspective. So Mike, what will be the major changes we could expect from the introduction of the AI technology in the maritime industry? how do you expect what's the role of the AI in the maritime industry?
Yeah, I would say big changes in the maritime industry and the role. I think we'll see the fine tuning of the use cases and how to use the type of data. I could speak to the data I've been sharing about. Our platform launched in May 2019, and we've just seen rapid increase in the adoption, but also it takes time. It's a new way to think about business insights, to think, I can run a project on a port right now on my desktop and get results within 15 minutes. It's a new way to think and make decisions. So, I think we'll see fine tuning of the use cases and narrowing in into that more specifically. But I think we're seeing every month or quarter that this is happening in all sorts of industries. You name it, maritime, real estate, foods, energy. I mean, we're finance. We're seeing these the companies come along in understanding more and more how they can gain those insights. I think another role. When you said role, I think of as I hear Vincent and Karno, they're great insights as being more on the ground than us. The thought I have is there's just a tremendous amount of data coming in, and our CEO Dr. Jimmy Crawford founded our company on the premise that the amount of data is increasing too much, satellite imagery. And one of the things we found with the geospatial analysts we help, they said they used to spend 80% of their time just going through the data and 20% of their time analyzing. And now with our platform, and other technology as well, but they said with our platform, they've been able to flip the model where they're able to spend 80% of their time analyzing and just 20% going through the imagery. So, I think a big role will be how do you get through all of that data and analyze it and use it in an intelligent way.
Okay, we have so many things to be discussed, but time is almost up. So before we finalized our panel discussion, I want to discuss about the future. So Vincent, what is the future vision of the port and port of Rotterdam? Could you answer short, briefly? Time is very limited.
I will try. One of our primary goals until 2050 is to reduce the emissions in the port by 95%, especially the greenhouse gases. So I see a future of eco-friendly and autonomous transport, maybe electrical transport. I see sustainable industry, renewable energy, and circular economy in the port. And those are all partly enabled by the capabilities that digitization and artificial intelligence give us. It makes us do things that we thought were not possible before. So I know in the grander scale how it will look, but if you ask me in 10 years, it will be totally different probably.
Okay. And then, Karno, how do you expect the future maritime logistics and AI technology? Also, let me know about your vision of your company's vision for the future.
Yeah, easy question, right? So of course, the automation level of maritime logistics, the whole maritime logistic chain will increase gradually. That's certain. But this will happen in deep sea, in approaches, in maneuvering, in berthing, or loading and unloading, and so on. So I believe that pretty soon we will start seeing, within certain boundaries, AI systems that can take over specific processes or functions. And naturally, that the system will still allow humans to override the automatic execution. That's what I see happening during this decade. And regarding Awake.ai, we are a software platform company building this ecosystem for smart ports and autonomous shipping. We want to lead this transition to sustainable and intelligent maritime logistics, as I briefly said in the presentation. We want to reduce global shipping emissions with the help of these ecosystem partners. And we want to be the world's most trusted platform and ecosystem orchestrator for these smart ports and smart shipping. So that's, of course, our vision. We want to be supporting that. So thank you.
Okay. And then, Mike, it is important to know about the business trends. So what is the maritime industry outlook on the future?
We're AI geospatial analytics experts. We're not maritime industry experts. It is one area that we apply that AI geospatial analytics expertise towards. So I can comment, one particular aspect of it. I think, as we're seeing in other industries, this thinking in this way will be one piece of the puzzle. The ways I've been describing, ability, we've said our vision is to build the Google search of geospatial analytics. So it's not an instantaneous search result, but within 15 minutes, in the best case scenarios, within 15 minutes is pretty good to ask a question of the world, get a result back in an email in your inbox, and have an answer to the question you were looking for. So, my challenges to companies, governments, organizations is, the rise of the geospatial, analytics, that is, in my opinion, certain. And it's not a matter of if you will use this type of data, it's a matter of when. And if you don't right now, you're at a disadvantage because others are doing it and starting in a large fashion. So, every quarter, every year, we see tremendous jumps in this area. And I think we'll see more of that in the maritime industry as well.
Okay, so thank you so much. Time's up. I think time is too short, We have so many things to be discussed, but time is too short. First of all, I appreciate to three honored panelists for your time and sharing your experience and insight. I believe that your comments are very helpful to the audience. I also thanks to our audience for your time and active participation. Thanks for all people to organize this event. Thank you so much, and then take care, and then hope to see you soon, somewhere. Bye-bye.